minutes, so we can all finish watching the Dodger game.
Hi, so as Sam mentioned, my name is Hamzah. I go to Daud High School.
My name is Yuwen Wang. I also go to Daud High School. And tonight we would just first like to clarify that this event is completely independent of Diamond Bar High School, as well as the Walnut Unified School District, as well as our principal, Dr. Andrew Chou, as well as the superintendent, Robert Taylor.
Yes, and we just want to address that because they have been getting inquiries, so we just want to clarify this is separate from them. This is something we're doing independently.
Bravo.
So the next thing we want to address is the format of today's forum. The first thing is we're going to have 5 issues. We're going to have 5 issues that we're going to address today, the overarching topics. The first one will be land use and development, then business and economy, homelessness and crime, seniors and youth issues, and transparency as the last one. So we will begin by asking the candidates to make an opening statement. After that, we want the concerns of the citizens of Daud Bar to be heard. So we have the Google form that was put out. From there, we have taken questions, put certain topics together, and we're going to ask questions as the moderators. At the end of every section, we'll open it up to the audience for 1 or 2 questions. And I'd like to emphasize that this is a time to ask questions. It's not a time to argue with the candidates up here or to go on and describe your opinions on a certain issue. So please be mindful that there are other people here that want to hear from the candidates, and as much as your opinions matter, they don't want to hear from you today. So, and then after that, if you ask a question, we will ask relevant follow-ups to what the candidates say, and we will pressure them on certain things that they say and certain issues that they bring up. So with that, let's get started. And we'll begin with Bob, and you can begin with your 4-minute opening statement.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Bob Velker. I'm a 32-year resident here. I started out when we first moved here in 1986. We hadn't become a city yet, and I had a business that I started in 1990. I'm going to wear out the card, people, in case you guys don't realize this. I could talk for hours. And I apologize right now for you guys because you're going to be working awfully hard with me. But anyway, I'm going to try and do it in 4 minutes here. I got very involved with the business community here as a business owner when we became a city. And the Chamber of Commerce was very, very vibrant at that time. We had our chamber, we had Walnut Chamber, San Gabriel Chamber, Pomona, Chino. We all competed for the best events with each other. People were members in all of these things. And it was just a really dynamic time. And then my career kind of led me out of the area for business. And I was, after my business closed, I got involved with something called the California Venture Forum, which is a nonprofit organization. And we brought entrepreneurs and investors together and raised $40 million for startup companies. Did that for 10 years until I was recruited to run a business incubator out of Pasadena. And my point is that I lived here all this time, but my professional focus was taking me out of town. Most recently, in the last 10 years, I've been very involved with the aviation community, and in particular the Chino Airport, working with this County San Bernardino and the ambassador for the Chino Airport, which led me to deep involvement with Norco, Corona, and Chino Hills. I've been in crosshairs of prosperity in those cities for the last 10 years. Very involved with the school districts, the business community, the city policymakers, and everything else. And I was on the chamber board for Eastvale. I was on board of directors for the Eastvale Chamber. And I would go to these events and meet people for the first time. And we eventually, somebody would come around where we live, and I'd say, I live in Diamond Bar, and they go, what? I just left Diamond Bar. I sold my house, moved here, bought the same house, bigger house, for half as much money, big difference. And there's 2 houses on my street, Bob, when are you going to join us? And I heard this time and time and time again, and I started to ask myself, am I missing, am I being stupid here? My head in the sand. Came home to my wife, and I said, I don't get it, what's going on here? And so I went looking for the chamber. This was 3 years ago when I ran the first time. I went looking for the Chamber of Commerce, and I was absolutely amazed to find out that it had withered away and was just a shell of itself. as was all the chambers around the area. So I started digging deeper. Why did this happen? So I found out the purse strings were basically pulled from the people, the policymakers here that are running the city. I'm gonna have a hard time making that. But anyway, I found that two things that happened. You know, poor performance from the chamber and lack of money, and the whole thing basically imploded. Why does that matter? Because the businesses, the traditional businesses, have left to flounder on their own as they try to negotiate with policymakers. You look at what's happening in the south end of town, the Asian businesses work collectively and they dictate policy. And so I'm here today because I'm trying to put the train back on the rails, and there'll be more to continue. I'll run out of time. Thank you.
Yes.
Great, thank you, Bob. That was excellent. So first, I want to thank the high school students for putting this on. You know, democracy, it's a messy process, but it is not a spectacle sport. So if you don't participate, people don't hear from you. If you want to be seen, you have to stand up. If you want to be heard, you have to speak up. If you want to be represented, you have to show up. So all of you here tonight being represented, and I tell you again, your voices do matter, your opinions matter, and you deserve to be heard. So I wanted to thank again the high school kids for putting this on, and I see a lot of familiar faces. Things got a little heated today, even before I had lunch. So I'm glad all of us are here today. Just remember that we're neighbors first and foremost. We may have different opinions, but we are neighbors. Our kids go to the same schools, we dine at the same restaurants, so let's keep that in mind as tonight goes. So first of all, I'm Andrew. For those of you that for some reason didn't realize that. I'm first and foremost a father, I'm a husband, and I'm also a business owner. Like many of you, I've seen this town change, and the reason why I got involved is I want to be the change I want to see. I was concerned about where the city's going. Serving on the Parks and Recreation Commission allows me access to a lot of information that some of you may not be privy to. We look at the reports, we look at our finances of the city, and we give somewhat of an advanced notice of where the city is headed. So I'm concerned. You know, I'm concerned for my kids, I'm concerned for your kids. I'm concerned that we're taking all the open space that we have. I'm concerned about our trails and our trails model being zoned for housing. I'm concerned about all of that. And I'm concerned that we're overbuilding, we're overcrowded, and we hope to change that. But you cannot affect change unless you show up, right? And if you keep electing the same block of candidates over and over, you can have the same results. And that's why I believe Bob and I were the new faces, and I think the city needs some new ideas, and that's why I'm running for the city council, and I sincerely hope we have your support. Now, a couple things, so a little bit of background about me, since later we're gonna get into the actual issues. So again, I'm happy to see all the familiar faces. I'm a financial planner by training. I've had 20 years experience as a professional financial planner. I started when I was 5. No, I'm kidding. I'm 40 years old. That's come up a few times. As I walk the 18th precinct in Diamond Bar, usually the first question is, they say, are you the intern or are you the candidate? I said, no, I'm actually the candidate myself. I'm 40 years old, my son is 11 years old, my daughter a year and a half, so let's get that out of the way first. So as a professional financial planner, I study budgets for a living. I look at our city's budget and I know it's not sustainable. Things have to change, and later we'll hopefully get into a little bit more of that. So professionally, I'm a financial planner. As a father, though, I'm concerned about where the city is heading in terms of quality of life. Are we overcrowding our schools? Every morning I sit in the same traffic, driving my son to South Pointe Middle School. I'm in the same traffic as you, and I come back, and my office is run by Chuck E. Cheese. I'm in the same traffic on Golden Spring, going back toward Ventura Park where I live, and I see some of my neighbors around. So I share your concerns, and as I always say on Facebook, I post a thing here and there once in a while. Your voices do count, and you deserve to be heard, and I hope to be that representative who's responsible, transparent, and bring your voice to the city council. Thank you.
Thank you again to our candidates for those opening statements. We'll begin with the category of land use and development. So to start, I'll introduce the issue. Diamond Bar and Chino Hills filed a lawsuit against the City of Industry earlier in 2018 over the building of a solar farm on Tres Hermanos, also known as Lower Tawny Canyon. Tres Hermanos, the parcel of Tres Hermanos under the sphere of influence by Diamond Bar is currently zoned for and many residents have expressed concerns regarding this. So if elected, do you plan on maintaining Tres Hermanos' current zoning after the lawsuit has been settled? You have 3 minutes to answer this question.
You get the mic.
Bob, you can go first.
3 minutes. 3 minutes. This is going to be staggered. Staggered stops. Anyway, okay. Tres Hermanos Ranch. The city of Industry bought that land in 1988 before we became a city. For some crazy reason, they wanted to split this town in half. And they wanted the water up, they used the lake up there as an excuse to run a pipe down the middle of Grand Avenue to try to annex the median strip and separate Diamond into 2 pieces, which basically fit into the different school districts. But it was some kind of ploy on their part to split us in half so that we never became a city. I have no idea why they are still hell-bent on this idea. But anyway, now they're stuck with this land. What do they do? It's 30 years later. So all this nonsense about a solar farm, in my opinion, is just a way of posturing to raise the value of the land so that they try to sell it to the Chino Hills and Diamond Bar for the most amount of money they can. They have all of the money in the world. Why they want to do this stuff, I don't know. But it just galls me to the core. And so it is what it is. I have to point out there's 5 seats on the council. There's 2 of us. That's 40%. We don't have a majority. What we're going to accomplish, I have no idea. Am I happy with the way things are? No. I don't know. I know the people of Chino Hills very well. Ray Marquez and I are flying at the Barstow for an airport commission meeting tomorrow in my airplane. I know these people. I know we can build a consortium, but promises, I have no idea. Sorry for just speaking fast and getting excited a bit. I should also mention real quick, since I have a few moments, I'm a recovering engineer. I have a degree in engineering, and I got an MBA in business. I'm a pilot. I'm an officer with the U.S. Air Force Auxiliary Civil Air Patrol. I'm 26 years of refereeing football, so when it comes to conflict resolution, I think I've got that nailed. Team player, I've gone out of my way not to alienate anybody that we might have to work with in the city council. But the transparency issue here is just horrible. I've gone to all the GPAC meetings in the last several years. There's just a lot of stuff we don't know what's going on. And so these questions need to be asked. I wish I had answers. Maybe Andrew's going to be able to lighten us more, but I think we make a good team. We both have the same interests, and that interest is you guys first, and the community and residents here. So I want to get that off my chest. I have 10 seconds. Oh yeah, I'm volunteer at the Pointe Museum over at the Chino Airport. I'm also at the Rose Parade, so don't look for me on New Year's Day, okay? Anyway, I'll be back.
Thank God. So here's the issue with Tres Hermanos. It's 2,700 acres of pristine land, lakes and longhorns and cows. My son thinks cows are monsters, by the way, so we have great fun when we drive south and west. So here's the issue, 2,700 acres of pristine land. But it's owned by city of industry, 30% of which, about 700 acres, falls within our city limit. The rest of it falls within Chino Hills city limit. The problem is, we don't own the land, but we certainly have control over the zoning of it. So far, the city council has done everything they can to make the land accessible and developable, if that's a word. My proposal is to make sure we protect Tres Hermanos. I ran on this from day one. My position has been clear from day one. I want to protect open space. Are you ready? So my position on this has been clear from day one. Protect open space and protect Tres Hermanos. I think it's the last piece of land that we have that I'll be so proud if one day my kids grow up, they come back and see the land, and they will enjoy that. So the only thing I would support is to develop some of the regional park for the enjoyment of everybody. I would oppose any sort of development, solar farms, a mall, God forbid, golf course. That land belongs to the people. It does not belong to developers. So the problem with the solar panel farm proposal that although it's green energy, I get that, but all the energy will be shifted back to city of industry. So the only one that will going to benefit is city of industry and certainly not us. So again, I've been clear about this from day one. My position is clear and that will not change. I work for the people. I'm here to reflect the will of the people, not the will of the developers. I'm not a career politician. I did not take any money from PAC or from developers, which is ironic to say in a small town like Diamond, relatively small, that special interest somehow comes into play in our city elections. And that should not be the case. So I'm proud to say that I did not take any money from developers, and I refuse to do so. And my position will be clear from day one. Protect open space and protect trusted models. Thank you.
Great. Now following up on that issue, if elected, are you open to holding a public forum after the lawsuit is settled to determine the community's opinion on this piece of land zoning? You have 1 minute to answer this. We'll start with Paul.
Well, I'm all for forums categorically, and at some point I want to say that, sticking on this tracer model subject, yes, I mean, there needs to be consensus. There needs to be consensus. We all need to know what's going to happen. But at the same time, I mean, we all have to be realistic about something else too that I don't hear used at all, and that is compromise. I don't think we're ever going to be able to believe that tracer model range is going to go untouched. But at the same time, there's no reason why it can't be held to be pristine. I don't have any ideas. I'm not trying to sell you guys anything. I'm just trying to be a realist here. And this whole thing's a moving target. It's organic. It's huge. The scale, everything about it. I mean, if we can get our hands on it, first we got to do that. But once we get our hands on it, then we can start talking about what we want to do with it. And the other thing that I want to make sure I talk about is that Diamond Bar needs to become a destination for dollars. And I want to spend a lot of time talking about that. But I'm not saying those dollars are going to come from Tracy Miles Ranch. But then again, maybe they're going to have to, because they've sold us down the river. Everything is earmarked for high density housing. And I don't know how much that we're going to be able to reverse, or how long it's going to take. There's 2 of us, and 3 of them, whatever. You get the point. So we have to think about compromises, but we also have to keep in mind the will of the people and what makes sense. And I wholeheartedly hold up the mantra that this city was based on, and that was open space. There was so many acres of open space for every 1,000 people, and that is eroded next to nothing. So it's a real issue.
I was at the event and I was told that a true politician will always talk beyond the time they're given.
Yes, and because Bob went beyond his time, we are giving you also 2 minutes to speak on this issue.
I appreciate that. So to answer your question, yes, I absolutely believe in town halls. I think that's the biggest problem we have with current council members, lack of transparency. The fact that they're not here today speaks volumes to me.
Yeah.
Democracy is a participation sport. It's not a spectacle sport. You cannot participate and not be part of it. I'm here because I deeply care about what you think. I personally believe, and I strongly believe, that elected officials are here to reflect the will of the people and not to impose our will on the people. So with that said, yes, I absolutely believe town halls are vital. It's important for the democratic process, and I'm shocked that we'll have more town halls than we do. I mean, we have 57,000 people that live in this town. 57,000 people, 30,000 registered voters. In last election cycle, 3,500 people voted, 10%. Why is that? Lack of this empathy about voting. There's a couple of reasons for it. One, I think if we have city elected leaders who are more engaged with the voters, I think that will encourage voters to come out and actually speak their mind. And to me, that's so important. I want to hear from our neighbors. We don't own treasure models. The council members don't own the treasure model. We don't own any piece of land. We're here to reflect the will of the people. And that's why I believe town halls are so important. And just to go back on that a little bit, this is where maybe Bob and I break a little bit from Bob. I don't support any development of treasure models. I will not support it. I don't think it benefits the people of Diamond Bar. I think it benefits the developers. So I will not support it. The only thing again I'll support is turning treasure models into original art. That's the only thing I'll support. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we continue with land use, I would just like to clarify for some of the audience that just came in that we have red cards as well as green cue cards. So if you're sitting in the audience and you agree with the point that the candidate is making, you can raise the green card and vice versa with the red card. So that's just to clarify for those of you who just came in. Okay, and then moving on. Recently, housing development has consisted mainly of gated communities that are unaffordable for most Diamond Bar residents. So if elected, do you have any plans on creating more affordable housing in Diamond Bar? If so, how? We'll start with Bob, and you have 3 minutes to answer this question.
Well, I promise you guys honestly, I haven't given a whole lot of thought about affordable housing. I've been concentrating on the fact that everything is being rezoned for homes. We got to keep in mind the train is moving down the tracks, and we're going to be hard pressed to stop the train and stop what all this nonsense is. So I'm not going to make any promises here. I think that the idea of the value of houses is very sensitive to everybody, and we all want to maintain as much maximum value in our house as we can. I'm not necessarily I don't know what to say. Affordable housing, it's not on my priority list. I'll be honest with you. So, can I say half a minute from next one?
Thank you, Bob. So affordable housing, it's a big topic, and that's starting to come up from my time walking all 18 precincts of Diamond Bar. Yes, there are people that support it, and yes, there's people that are against it. The issue here is Diamond Bar is getting increasingly more expensive. The median housing in Diamond Bar, want to take a guess? 700,000, right? So a young family cannot afford this. My wife and I, we made it our life's goal to move to Diamond Bar at some point. But it took us a while to get to where we are, and we're fortunate to be successful enough that we can actually afford a house in Diamond Bar. But that is an issue. So 700,000 is the median housing price in Diamond Bar. I'll give you a little perspective. So in Irvine, same topic, right? It's a hot topic right now in Irvine. So when they consider low-income housing, for a family of 4, if you make less than $80,000 a year, you're considered low income in Irvine. So the fact that low-income housing doesn't mean that we're building homeless shelters. Doesn't mean that we're building high-density, for homeless people. It doesn't mean that. So it depends on how we define the word low income. Right? So for us, is 80,000 the right number? But I mean, if you have somebody who works as a teacher, as a policeman, as a firefighter, 80,000 it's a good income, right? So where are you going to go? We have most of the homes in Diamond are single-family residences. 700,000 median price. So how do we attract more people to come to Diamond? Younger people, let's set aside the low-income topic aside. How do you attract younger people to come to Diamond who may or may not have kids, maybe it's husband and wife, they're just starting out their career, they make 56, 70,000 a year. How do you attract those people to come to Diamond Bar? These are the next generation of Diamond Bar. Right? Some of you have been here for a long time, yes. We're relatively newer to Diamond Bar, but I see the trends that we do need more housing options. So historically, we built nothing but single-family, big, nice houses in the country, in all the different places. But if you notice, from Willow Heights to Montefino to the Vantage, so we're going more condos around, right? So again, the whole topic on affordable housing, I think we need to define what affordable housing means. And it may not be as bad as you think it is. The low income, again, it's about 80,000. Think about that. Okay, so again, my job here is to listen to the people. So far, based on what I hear, is that there are people who are against it, and there are people who are for it, but we have to be smart about it. I don't foresee Diamond Bar ever building a whole complex just for low-income affordable housing. I don't foresee that happening here, based on the conversation I have with people. But I do see us maybe have some solution for younger families who otherwise cannot afford a $700,000 median housing home in Diamond Bar. Thank you.
Thank you. And at this time, we would like to open the floor up for audience questions. questions on the topic of land use and development only. So raise your hand if you would like to ask a question to the candidates about this issue. Yes. You can come up here and ask a question.
My name is Carl Devine, and I live in Velker, and I'm not coming up there. Bob, I have a question for you. How much of the property at Trace Manus is owned by or bordered by Chino Hills, and how much of it is actually bordered by Diamond Bar?
It follows the county line, I believe the county line is more in their favor than our favor.
So Chino has more responsibility than Diamond Bar has for Trace Manus, is that what you're saying?
Yes, it's more of it lies in Chino Hills than in Diamond Bar.
Okay. Same question to Andrew.
So as I mentioned earlier, this treasure model is 2,700 square acres. Okay, 30% of that, about 720 acres is in Diamond Bar.
Okay.
The rest of it is in Chino Hills. So Chino Hills controls 70% of that. So you can do a quick math. So about 700 acres in our back area. And most of it on the north side of treasure model. So right back where Diamond Bar Ranch High School is. Yeah, so that land behind it is treasure models, and that area falls within our city limit. Does that answer your question?
That answers my question.
Anybody else on this issue?
Yeah. I'll take it. My name is Mary Wingmeyer, and I'm a 30-year resident here in town. Question for both of you is this. With the advent of small affordable housing, you are also, what is currently on the books, is talking about demolishing existing commercial real estate and redoing it into small housing. How do we intend to be in a city that needs capital income, which could be obtained through sales tax, from what is sold at the commercial properties that, you know, be it food, be it bowling, be it whatever. If you're going to take all of that away and put housing in its place.
Thank you, Mary. And I do see on Facebook, by the way, right? That's your name. Nice to meet you in person.
Thank you.
So to address your question, I don't know if you heard, so how do we balance the income that's needed from housing and sales tax, while at the same time making sure that we have choices of affordable housing?
Right.
Okay. Great question.
Especially with Cal Poly Pomona wanting to open that up into a tech center and having the bridge across the way, having students, professors, other people that will be working in that tech center coming across looking for places to eat, places to get services, to get their car repaired, all of that.
You referring to the Starfish development or the Mandarin?
Mandarin.
Okay, sure. So to answer your question, so the city currently receives about 29 million a year in revenue. 11 million of which is from property tax.
Correct.
5 million of which is from sales tax. Now in a healthy city, that should not be the case. In a healthy city, that should be somewhat equal. The reason being, businesses take much less city resources than homes do. So imagine, we build a tract of homes, right? Yes, the city receives about $1 million in planning fees, in engineering fees, so you get $1 million up front. You build a home, then you start collecting property tax. But what happens 10, 20 years after that? Now we're paying for the roads, now we're paying for electricity, we're paying for water, we're paying for landscaping. So long-term is not sustainable, right? In the city, for too long, for decades, our approach has been building homes and not building the economy. That's why we're at a point now where 11 million of our income is from from property tax, only 5 million is from property tax. As the only candidate that actually owns a business in Diamond Bar, I will make it a priority to make sure we revitalize our local economy. The first thing I do is form a small business council and actually hear from actual business owners. I think the issue we have right now is none of our council members actually own a business in Diamond Bar. And I think that's an issue, and I intend to change that. I own a business, and my company is located right next to Chuck E. Cheese. I don't work at Chuck E. Cheese. My office is next to Chuck E. Cheese. I need to clarify that at the time. So I do see a point, and as a council member, I will work to balance that. I think for too long, we'll focus too much on homes and not the local economy. So I'm intending to change that.
Thank you, Andrew. I was trying to figure out where to fit this in, but when you drive through Glendale, Eagle Rock, and South Pasadena and see what mistakes they made a half a century ago when they basically sold all the land off to homes. You can't get a credit card between two houses there. And there's no business to support. And they're starving, they're dying. And then I had recently had to go to a funeral in Laguna, and it was then that it really came into perspective for me, because Laguna Niguel and Daud are the same age, same layout, same everything. You look at what they've got down there, three lanes in each direction, commerce on every corner, houses hidden by hills, and it's just the opposite of what's going on from what we have here. But what's wrong here, what's happened is, it turns out everybody on staff, I'm going to blow that right off, everybody on staff has real estate licenses. They admit it. They don't have anybody on staff that knows anything about business. Everything in this town is outsourced. Marketing is outsourced. Everything is outsourced. They don't do anything. They get nothing done over there. So all they do is real estate. So they're paying the bills by selling our real estate off to the home developers. And the businesses now are, I was stunned when Carol let this out on Facebook about 2 months ago, that even the bowling alley, that whole from Acapulco all the way to the bowling alley is now been earmarked for high-density housing. So it's evidence that they've taken everything in this town, from Tracer Models Ranch to the business community, and sold them off to the real estate people, rezoned them. And they say that the business is organic, they can't do anything about it. That, it's a laissez-faire attitude, and there's nothing you can do about business. That's nonsense. It starts with zoning. And if you zone things for high-density housing, yeah, the business is organic because it's dying, and we're fine. But I can't help but compare Glendale and Eagle Rock and the mistakes they made to Laguna Niguel, for what I hold them up as an example of what this place could be. Now, what it's going to take to get it back on track, I don't know. I keep saying it. I don't know. But that should be our goal. And we've got to turn this thing around. Another thing they say, they've been fond of saying, it's easier for them to rezone things. No, it's easier for them to potentially put business in open space than it is to deal with the centers that they have now that are dying and drying up. And I want to go back to the chamber just for a quick second. I said that the businesses are left to flounder in the traditional centers, and they have no representation, nobody to negotiate policy with and dictate terms with and so that's why we have dead anchor tenants in every major center, is because they don't have that collective representation, and we have to restore that. We have to, it's probably going to take, like he said, a blue ribbon panel of business owners in a group setting that we can start to at least reestablish the power that they can have, and maybe at the same time bring the chamber back, but with much better performance and expectations out of it. So, okay, stop.
So the next issue we're going to address, which I believe both candidates have been touching on, is the business and economy in Diamond Bar. There are a lot of concerns about property taxes here, about rent control, not necessarily control, but rent in general with businesses. A lot of businesses have been going out of the city because the rent prices are being jacked. So that's what the first question is, that many small businesses are at risk from predatory landlords in Diamond Bar. I know my friends and I go to the whole enchilada, and that place was closed. They had to move because of the rent hike. So city council members don't necessarily have control over what landlords do, but what would you do to discourage landlords from hiking rents, and do you have any creative solutions for that? We'll begin with Andrew.
Great, thank you. That's a great question. And as the only business owner, the only candidate that actually owns a business in Diamond Bar, I personally feel your pain. My wife and I on the weekends, we think about where to go eat, right? So, same thing. So I do understand the issue, and I wanted to kind of take it back a little bit. I think the issue really started decades ago. This city, when we first did our general plan back in 1995, the idea was to make this into a luxury home destination. So we focused on building homes, nice homes, yes, but we focused on building homes for the past 15, 20, 30 years. And as a result of that, what we have is overcrowding and traffic and neglected our retail economy. So right now we have 8 different plazas, and only 2 of which have been modernized. We're talking about Sprouts Plaza and the H Mart Plaza. So some of you have been here for a lot longer. We used to have a movie theater. Yes. Right? And you remember that? It was actually things to do, and thanks to Greg and some of his clickings, I didn't realize we had nightclubs in that. And what fun is that? 3. I had no idea. Yeah, so I think what we can do as the city council, yes, you're absolutely right. The city council has no jurisdiction over what a retail plaza owner wants to do with the rent. We have no control of that. So ROIC owns a couple plazas, it's a big national conglomerate, they own a couple plazas. A Charles Company owns the Sprout Plaza. So yes, you're correct. We don't have control over what they do with the rent. What we do have control over is influence. Right? We have to work with the real estate owners, the real estate company, developers, we have to work with developers. The step one is convince them that we have the right population to support whatever business they have. They call it a roof count. Right? Our median income is over $100,000. We're a wealthy town. It's amazing to me that we can't get a Trader Joe's or what was the other one? Whole Foods. It's amazing to me that we can't get a store like that here. And I think what it's going to take is a collective effort by city council members and the residents alike to attract those businesses to come here. The first thing we do is talk to the business owners, the property owners, convince them to do a facelift. Some of our retail plazas are. So that's the major difference between me and the current council members. They believe in building and developing new plazas. I believe in revitalizing, repurposing existing plazas. We don't need to build more. Actually, as a matter of fact, we don't have land to build anymore. What we do have is Trio Way. We have the Walmart Plaza. We have some smaller plazas on the corner of Grand and Diamond Boulevard, where the Mr. Baker used to be, the Bakeuna. Those plazas have to be modernized, make it nicer. I've seen what a modernized plaza can do. Just look at H Mart Plaza. They modernized it and saved it from the brink of bankruptcy. That plaza was dead, it was left for dead, right? And they did a facelift, fresh coat of paint, and now people are starting to go back. So the first thing I want to do is work with property owners to make sure they modernize the plaza. Then the next thing is work on bringing an anchor tenant. So for those of you who are in real estate, it's so important to have an anchor tenant in the plaza. The anchor tenant is a big name store. I'm generally not a fan of big box stores, but we need at least one to stabilize foot traffic and have visibility of that plaza. So for example, Walmart Plaza is a great example. They have, you see the name Walmart and they put up that big windmill there. So you know that plaza's there. People go there to go to Walmart to get their stuff. Then you start looking around, right? So the first step is to modernize, then attract an anchor tenant, then we'll start attracting mom and pop, unique restaurants that reflect the needs of our community. Yes, I do see a post on Facebook, yes, we probably can do without another certain type of restaurant. Yes, I'm not completely blanking that. I do read all the comments, So yeah, and there are days when I wake up, I just want a pancake, right? And there are weekends where my wife and I would love to go out and eat, maybe have a nice steak, right? So I get all that. But let's have modernized plazas, work to bring on anchor tenants, then we'll start building on smaller shops. So for example, the Claremont Village is a great example. It's busy, right? But it doesn't look messy. And they have all kinds of cuisines. New American, French. Oh, I'm getting hungry, but that's what we can do. That's my vision for Diamond Bar. I think we have the ability to do that, but we need to all work together and convince the property owners that we have the population for it. We do have the population for it. We need to make them see it. Thank you.
So, Andrew, I just want to follow up before Bob has a chance to answer. You mentioned facelifts on the plazas, and how would you achieve that? Would you do it through tax incentives? What would be your way of influencing them to have the facelift in the first place?
No tax incentives. So we don't have control of retail plazas. Those are privately owned properties. What we can do is work with it, right? So there are
much better than we are now.
Correct.
The city
Exactly.
does not cooperate easily with this.
And the issue is, as a city, for decades, we've been focused on building homes and not economy. And I think property owners know that, right? So as a city, we need to fundamentally shift the way we look at our revenue sources. We have $11 billion coming from property tax. That's not going away. The homes are going to be there indefinitely. The property tax is not going to go away. What we need to work on is sales tax. So sales tax is the part, $5 million, that's the part we're lacking. So we need to work with property, let them know that we are a highly educated town. Our median income is over $100,000, and we have the people that will actually go and support the restaurant. And lastly, all of you who are asking for different type of cuisine, you need to support them, right?
Yeah.
So step one is get them to open up in diamond bars. Step two, let's all go have dinner, right? So that's where I stand. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. And I'm really trying to, compliment you what he says, and I, belabor it because everything he said is right on. But it's important to understand the developers don't want to do business in this town. I found that out 3 years ago, and it's because you can't get anything pushed through the planning department here. And so the big developers just kind of like, diamond bar, sorry, they're not interested. We have to change what goes on there in City Hall, the staff, to make it more accommodating for the people who want to spend money here. Second of all, like you said, it's the demographics of these. There's nothing wrong with our demographics that can't support the traditional businesses. Bob's Big Boy was owned by a Korean fellow who also owned the one out in Norco. And he couldn't negotiate with the landlord there and ends up taking, our Bob is out there next to Billy Bob in Norco right now. I go there occasionally for my it stuns me that even they can't get cooperation. So the city needs to wake up and start doing business with business. Second of all, we need to become a destination for dollars, as I said. Industry is going to be doing whatever the hell they want over there on the hills. And there's going to be people getting off the Grand Avenue with their wallets out in great numbers. And what are we doing to tap into that? We need to have a strategy. It's going to happen. We can't control what industry is doing over there, but we certainly come up with ways of having something here that they come for, major restaurants, that kind of stuff. Then we have to ask ourselves where we're going to put them. But here's another thing that galls me is Gateway Corporate Center. Not even 30% of that has been fulfilled. I think that was one of the best decisions that our founders did or came up with was putting that center out there for all kinds of white collar, businesses. And it's been fallow ever since the chamber, was let go. It's been 20 years since anything was put up there. That's a waste. That's jobs in our own town. That reduces traffic, and we have jobs right here in our own town. I mean, it's all symbiotic. It's an ecosystem. It's an aquarium. I mean, we're inside a fishbowl. So we have to think of it that way. And the fact that we have nobody on staff has anything but a real estate license, it scares me. The reason the developers, I didn't elaborate on this, the reason developers can't get anything pushed through the system is because they've outsourced planning. So they go there with their plans to get something approved. It goes out to this outsourced company, and they're incentivized to procrastinate and to say, oh no, I'm sorry, it's not. They fail it and they reject it. And so the developer has to come back time and time again until they get it all right, and they finally get their approval. But the company that's given them the approval, now their income stream stops. You see what I'm saying? So it's a ludicrous scenario that's going on in City Hall. There's nobody to market Gateway Corporate Center. There's nobody to market those businesses moving in there because they've outsourced marketing. Everything is outsourced. It stuns me. Like I said, I've come from prosperity, 260,000 people in a very prosperous scenario, environment over in Eastvale and Norco and Chino and everything. And I see how it works over there. I come over here and I see the whole thing's busted. And I wish I knew how to quickly bring it back to life. But everything that Andrew said is right. That's the start. That's where we have to begin.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to be looking at is a little divisive issues. There's the measures on the ballot this November and how they affect our city. So I want to just remind you about the cards and to not let the candidates finish what they're answering the question. So let's begin with Prop 6, which is the measure to repeal the gas tax that was passed. Diamond Bar gets $88,000 a year from SB1 funds, which Prop 6 would repeal. And those funds go toward fixing our roads and the other infrastructure in the city. The 5760 freeway entrance that is also being redone to lessen the traffic there got $22 million out of the $180 million cost from SB1 funds. But at the same time, California has become one of the most expensive states to live in. gas in Diamond Bar is nearing $4, while the national average is $2.85. So keeping both living affordability and our infrastructure needs in mind, do you support Prop 6, the repeal of the gas tax?
Thank you. I don't know if it's a good idea to go first, but so this is one of those hot button topics, and I'm glad that you brought it up. It absolutely impacts our city directly. But Hamzah, let me kind of correct you real quick. So it's actually 800,000 a year. It's not 80,000. It's 800,000 a year that will get from SB1. Additionally, there's 22 million earmarked for the design and for the design phase of the 5760 confluence. After that, there's a 220 million coming after that to actually do the construction of that confluence. Okay, and all that money is coming from SB1.
And that's still coming?
And that's still coming. And if SB1 were to be repealed, meaning if Prop 6 was repealed, depends on who you talk to, right? So Carol and Bruce, our councilman, our mayor and mayor pro tem, they seem to be in favor of not repealing Prop 6. For this reason, we will see the funding stop. We will see the 22 million dry up, and we certainly will not see the 200 million after that. That means more traffic on Grand. That means more accidents. It's the 5th most dangerous intersection in the country, the 5760 confluence. Okay? So that was us. If you talk to Ruth and if you talk to Carol, they'll tell you not to do it. But if you talk to Steve and Nancy, they'll tell you to go repeal it. So it depends on who you talk to. But here's my personal feeling. Nobody likes to pay higher taxes. So Prop 6 asks 12 cents per gallon plus the car registration tax, correct? But the part that bothers me the most is the language says going forward, they can increase the tax without voter approval. That's the part that bothers me, and it's for the same reason that I'm voting no on Measure Q, because there's no accountability on what happens to the proceeds. So that's where I stand, right? Now, as a council member, I have to look out for the best interest of Diamond Bar. And as the way it stands right now, the best interest is making sure we get that money. That, as a council member. Now, I don't like to pay higher prices at the gas pump, and I'm not denying your feelings. I certainly sympathize. I mean, it's $4 a gallon. Last time I filled up my car, it was $91. That's someone's, that's a lot of money for one tank. So I get it. I get the fact that we don't want to pay gas tax. I get it. Trust me, I get it. But if you believe what Ruth and Cheryl tell me, if we both know on Prop 6, that money will dry up. Surely we could put another proposition on ballot that's a little better written, where the money is actually specifically earmarked for that. And that's another problem I have with this type of language. Do I have time? Yeah. So I want to bring your attention to something. So there's something called Measure A, Prop A, Prop C, and Measure R. These are transportation money, tax dollars, that's earmarked for transportation improvement and also for improving parks and recreation programs for the cities. And that money goes to the state and gets funneled back to the city. So every year, our city gets roughly about 1.1 billion. Okay? But guess what we do with that money? We exchange it for 70 cents on the dollar with City of Industry or Manhattan Beach. Let me rephrase that. We take 1.1 million, sell it to City of Industry, in return they give us back $700,000. Why? Well, so why? Reason is, and I know this for a fact, I studied budget, I know this for a fact. The reason is Prop A, Prop C, Measure A, Measure C, and Prop A, Prop C, and Measure R, the money is restricted for transportation. The thinking behind that is if we take the money out of that pot and put it back in the general fund, then we'll have a blank check and do whatever we want with it. For example, pay $500,000 for 2 monuments. Right? So now the money is in our general fund, now the city council has power to do whatever they want. And this is a fact, you can check. The city budget is online, you can check this. Right? So my problem with a lot of measures and propositions, the way they're written, so the idea behind it is really not bad. Right? We need money to help fund to fix our roads. So that's all good. But it's the way it's written and the way the money eventually funnels back on the city, how we spend that money, that's the critical part. So for that reason, and for me as a council member, hopefully, my position is we need to make sure that money stays in our pocket, at least the way it's written right now. We need that money to fix the 57, 60 compliments.
Congratulations, Andrew. Thank you. Taxes, good Lord, especially taxes coming from Sacramento. Yeah, there's no accountability. That's nuts. This Proposition W, the taxing of our own hotels here, the hotel tax in Diamond Bar. You guys are all familiar with that one too. Q, I'm sorry. I heard them explain one time at a council meeting. They talked about the priority of taxing. What's the most lucrative taxes a city can have? The most lucrative one is fuel sales. The second one is hotel sales. And then it goes down from there. So they decided, I just find it ludicrous that these people decide that, okay, since hotels are so taxable, let's build more hotels, then we'll get more taxes. We don't have 50% occupancy in the 2 hotels we have now, or 3, whatever it is. Now they're going to build 2 more. They want to build one over, by Farmer Boys, and then they want to put one on Grand Avenue where the Dunbar Honda was. So we'll have 5 hotels with 8 people staying in each one, but we'll get 14% taxes, not 10. We'll raise the tax from 10% to 14%. Well, how does that compare to elsewhere? If you guys haven't followed this, Anaheim and downtown LA get away with 14%. Everybody else is 10%. These people are going to look, at us and compare us to Pomona or Claremont. They're all 10%. Everybody around us is 10%. But they're going to come here by God because we have these freeways and it makes no sense. You can't just tax people and assume you're going to, that it's not going to impact business. So that's what I have to say about taxes. They're crazy.
Another issue for our students is Prop Go. That's also on the ballot this November, and that's for funding to Mount Sac. Dunbar High School is a feeder school to Mount Sac. A lot of our students end up going to Mount Sac before transferring out. Do you support Prop Go, keeping in mind the importance it serves to the students that go to Mount Sac and the resources it provides to our entire community in Walnut, Diamond Bar, and Rowland Heights as well?
I'm all for advanced education. I support the colleges very much. I understand that there's still the last bond issue hasn't completed, and we're going to do another one. I haven't looked real closely at this, but this seems a little ludicrous. It's a tax on us, and I'm not sure they've handled the last one very well, and they're asking us to do another. I'm very skeptical. I'm very skeptical about this. But I totally support schools, and there should be. I mentioned that I'm very involved with, as my position with the airports and the aviation community. I get very involved between that industry and education, and the schools are not putting out product for the businesses, and that's a real problem. And I don't know how well this ties into this, the tax. But if the schools are subsidizing the education through residents through taxes, and they're not putting out a product that people want to hire, there's a systemic problem. And I don't have a solution to this. I'm saying I'm on the cutting edge of that very problem. The world is short of 500,000 commercial pilots right now. 6-figure incomes, 500,000 commercial pilots missing in the world right now. 250,000 mechanics missing in this world. Those are astronomical numbers. And a lot of it it's a stunning situation. And the whole world is upside down, in my opinion. I'm stunned at these things. 100,000 technicians are missing in what they call avionics. We need 100,000 computer-type people in aviation to change out the control systems and things like that in small airplanes. How could we possibly have this kind of discrepancy in the labor pool when we have such dynamic schools? this is what's prompted me to get involved with, you know, the superintendent of the school districts and colleges, Chafee and SAC and others, Norfolk College. We're trying to solve this problem, and they are adapting, but first they have to realize the situation. And you know, part of the problem lies on industry that they're not speaking up, and that's my job as ambassador for the airport and the aviation community is in large part have a lot to do with that. So it's a long way to answer the question.
Yes.
Not what you're looking for.
So I want to follow up on that. You said you support advanced education, but you also don't support the PROPGO measure. And you said that it's a tax on us. Do you see any way to reconcile how to meet the student needs at Mount SAC? A lot of my friends will be going there and then transferring to a UC school. How do you meet those needs of the labor force at Mount SAC while not taxing them? Because the money has to come from somewhere, and it has to come from our community.
What is their needs?
Yeah.
You said meet their needs. So what are their needs?
Well, the Mount SAC board has said that they need funding for textbooks. A lot of students cannot afford the textbooks, so they want class sets for textbooks. So students don't have to buy several $100 textbooks when the class credits themselves cost as much money. So that's what Mount SAC wants the money to go towards. So how would you address their concerns?
Go ahead.
So the goal bond is, I wouldn't consider that controversial. Anytime you help the students, you help the police, the firefighters, it's almost a no-brainer. But with that said, though, I would say it's a $750 million bond. It is designed to pay for much more than textbooks. I actually happen to teach classes at Mount SAC. I'm a contract instructor at Mount SAC. I teach out the trailer, no joke. So the 750.
What do you teach?
I teach a financial planning class through Mount SAC Extension. So it is so the money, my understanding is that it will help pay for a stadium, a brand new stadium. It will help rebuild a lot of classrooms, some of which have been around since the 60s and haven't been fixed up. So that's my understanding of it. And the tax, yes, it is a tax. Every time you have a bond, it's a tax. So it is a tax. Let me touch on that. So the tax, I believe, is 12.5 cents or 1.25 cents per thousand, something. Is what it is? 1.25 cents. So a medium housing price down about 700,000, right? The math works out to roughly about $125 a year. I calculated on my own house, $125 a year in my property tax. I'm a teacher at Mount SAC. I see the impact they have on students. And again, reasonable people can agree to disagree. I'm happy to pay that tax, knowing that the money goes to the right places. So there is, my understanding, there is a citizen oversight board. So there is some sort of checks and balances to make sure the money goes where it is. It is a big bond, I agree, $750 million, 3/4 of a billion. So it is a big tax. And again, reasonable people can agree to disagree. I will pay the $125 of my property tax to help fund the future of our community. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to open it up to audience questions on business and economy. I know taxes, a lot of people have strong opinions, so we'll start over here.
Good evening, my name is Daud. I'm a 22-year resident of the city of Diamond Bar. We talk about businesses coming to Diamond Bar and the future questions in the outcome of transparency. 4.5 years ago, I asked one of the council members that they were going to have a Walmart neighborhood coming in town. And he was fiddle fussing on it, and I said, please, come clean with me. Is there a Walmart coming in town? Kind of gave me the rundown of saying that, well, the city manager had told the city council not to say anything because they agreed with the developer not to open the door to let the community know that the business coming to town. And I asked the council member, do you work for me or do you work for the developer? Yeah. He said, well, I do work for you, but there was still a negotiation. Right now, there is the Diamond Bar Trailer Park on Grand Canyon Road and the 60 freeway. It's pretty much 2/3 empty right now. There's a lot of talk in town about Hampton Inn coming in. Talk. We don't know what's going on with talk. The business community needs to come in and be transparent with the community. We want a partnership with you. We want to do things with the community. There is a strong secrecy going on that we don't know. But those on the other side of the end in City Hall, they know what's going on. Of course, the negotiation still dicey between the developer and the prospective buyer. So my question is, what is it we can do to bring partnerships, to bring businesses, not to be surprised, there's a Walmart coming in town, or there's a business coming in town, or Hampton Inn coming in town? That's my question.
Thank you. So, Bob,
Alan, your question is whether we should be transparent? The transparency aspect, yeah, of course. I mean, that's what we've been talking about all night. Am I missing your question a little bit?
Well, my question is transparency of information, because the council knows more information than the rest of us. There are negotiations, they're working to bring in Walmart Hypermarket. The property owner, ROIC, told the city manager, do not disseminate to the community. The council member knew about it. One of the few residents heard about it because they were connected to the council member. It's good enough for the gander, it's good enough for good. We need to know what the information is. I was very ambivalent about Walmart coming in because of the wages, make sure that we're paying workers adequate wages with benefits and so forth. I don't want anybody to be taken off hiring somebody at $11, $12 an hour with no benefit. Walmart has a notorious problem in the community. And now we're having Hampton Inn. What's going on with that property? You know, the discussion happened. But the citizens need to be happy to be a two-way consultation.
okay, so if I could clarify for the audience, the question is, how can we have transparency with new businesses coming in, and so that the citizens are aware of what the business is, what kind of workers will they be hiring, what benefits the workers will be receiving in the city?
Well, I'm going to go back. I'm going to answer that by going back to what I said about a chamber. I mean, a chamber functions as a liaison between the city and the businesses and the community. I mean, the policymakers. And we would have a much better voice if we had, you know, we as residents would have a much better voice with the chamber that we could talk to, and they would interface with the city. The city is notorious for saying they can't discuss anything. You know, I wasn't sure how to fit this in or where, but a couple council meetings ago, on the 2nd of October, there was going to be a presentation from the city manager on economic development plan, the action plan, economic development action plan. I got wind of that, so I downloaded the agenda packet, 111 pages long, and in there was a 22-page section on the economic development report from the city manager. And I read that. It came to that point in the meeting. Some of you were there. The city manager went on and on and on, basically. 22 pages was his report. 6 of those pages was on his letterhead, was his own take on things, and then 16 pages was this action plan done by a consulting firm. And the 16-page action plan basically said, well, we will work on this, we will work on that, we will work. No data, no references, no milestones, no here's where we are, here's where we're going, here's how we're going to get there, here's how we know we got there, here's how, you know, nothing. But this guy went on and on about how great this was. I mean, you know, the report. And then each council member spoke about how phenomenal, what a great job the staff is doing, what a great report, all this stuff. And then they opened up just for comment. You know, I can't sit still. So I walked up there and I said, look, I applaud you for the effort. This is, you know, I really appreciate this is the major component of my campaign is prosperity. You know, I applaud you for what you're doing. However, this document doesn't even have a date on it. It has no substance. It's woefully inadequate. You know, I stopped short of saying it looked like something a high school kid turned in. I could have said a college student. It was really very, very sophomoric. And it was not done by a professional in the business, but it was a strategic action plan. And I said, you know, I really have to hold you to task here. What do we, you know, I hate to ask what we pay to have somebody to do this. Stop, yeah. I gotta stop. You know where to be.
Great, thank you. So, I assume we're still on the same topic.
Yes.
Transparency, okay. So, I think start from the top, right? So democracy does not happen in a vacuum. It happens when the people are informed, when the people participate, and when elected officials answer to the people. That's the only time democracy can work. So I believe in transparency. I don't think a city should have secrets unless it's a pending lawsuit, unless someone's getting fired. Short of that, nothing should be a secret. Why is there a secret between a city and its residents? You, like us, we are the stewards of your money. Why should there be a secret? If someone's applying for a permit, unless there's a legal reason that we can't disclose that, everything should go on our website. Right, here's a 10 project that's coming in, here's 10 businesses that apply for permits. Why don't we have that? A lot of other cities have this. I know it's not a legal issue, now short of a pending lawsuit, obviously, but it starts from the top. So answering your question, Alan, is transparency and accountability start from the top. As a council member, I promise to be transparent. Town halls are great. This is great. I don't know how many of you actually been to a council meeting. It's not the best place to ask questions. For a Brown Act, they can't answer you. Right? But this is great, right? You ask a question, we answer, Bob and I do our best. Yes, we're thinking on our feet, but we live and breathe this stuff. I didn't decide to run for city council as a part-time leader. This is going to consume my life. So I announced my candidacy when I turned 40 years old. Yes, I'm 40. I announced my candidacy when I turned 40, and I said, this is the next phase of my life. It's public service. And I strongly believe that we as elected officials, we're public servants. Public servants, by definition, serve the public. We don't have the luxury of not answering to the public. Right? Everything should go on website. If you have an empty storefront, for example, Big Lots, being empty for over a year. Here are the 5 businesses that apply for permits. Right? Here's some of the businesses that we have approached. Why don't we have that? Why do you as a citizen have to dig through a website, 200 pages of PDF to find the information? Why do you do that? Why?
The time it's not there.
And half the time it's not there. I happen to know where to look, right? But, you know, sometimes you have to put in a Public Information Act request. Why do you do this, young people? No, you, like us, we represent you. All that information should go on our website. We should not have secrets between us. And that's what I strongly believe in. That's why I'm running for city council. I think there's too much secrecy within the current.
Okay, so we're going to take one more question back there on business and economy. Gentleman back there had his hand up earlier. Thank you.
Hi, my name is David Placencia. I had a quick question. I know the candidates, the incumbents that did not show up, I don't expect you to answer for them, but I was hoping for some clarity on, you know, what credit we give them on issues that they're campaigning on. And I'm wondering, based on the information that you're privy to, if you have any idea whether or not, I know they're, in a lot of the flyers we're getting, they're touting they're responsible for the Sprouts Shopping Center coming through and all that development. And I want to know if you're aware of any kind of sweat equity that they put forth in getting that done, because to me, I want to make sure they're not getting credit for something that just happened in coincidence with Kmart going under and the developer decided to pull the trigger on redeveloping that space.
And I apologize, I didn't hear the first part. Are you asking, say that first part again? I'm sorry.
I mentioned, you know, I don't expect you guys to speak for the incumbents, but since they're not here, I still wanted to ask the question on how much credit do they get for, you know, some of these projects that have come through and making sure they're not just campaigning on it, just that they happen to be in the council when this project happened.
Thank you. And that's a fair question. So the question, if I understand, is that you're asking how much credit we give to the current council members for some of the things that's happening around town. Is that the right question?
Right.
So with all due respect, is it Chris?
David.
David. So with all due respect, that's what we have is. They should have been here. That's why we do this. They were invited, as far as I know, to come here and tell us what they've done, so that you, the voter, can make an informed decision who you want to vote for, who do you want to lead for the city for the next 4 years. They had the opportunity. They gave that up. twice. So with all due respect, certainly I don't want to speak for them, and I respect all of them as people, and I don't have anything bad to say about them, but they were given an opportunity to be here to tell us exactly what they've done, so that you can make an informed decision. And I'm sorry that they're not here, but it's not my place to speak for them. Thank you.
Again, I agree wholeheartedly. But I'm not going to bash anybody. I'm not going to, nitpick anyone because I may have to work with them. But I will say this because this was on TV, this was on video. To finish my story about what happened at that council meeting, when I got done, being critical of the report, Ruth was kind of stuttering and looking at me kind of befuddledly, and Jimmy says, "Excuse me, can I ask a question?" And she said, "Okay, sure." And he says, "Bob, where did you get that report?" I said, "It was in your packet. It's the 22 pages within the 111-page agenda packet. You have it." And I walked to my seat, and they spent about 3 minutes trying to find it on their iPads and start reading the report. And she said, Ruth says, she's the mayor, she got the mic, she says, Mr. City Manager, would you address that, his comments? And he went right back to reading his 6 pages of highlights and everything, and the accolades started pouring in and everything, and I just kind of like zoned out. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. But I'm saying, it's becoming more and more evident to me, personally, it's my own opinion, the staff runs the council. That the council has not even the Osmonds, I mean, they themselves are using a bad reference for half the crowd, not even the Osmonds get along this well that nobody argues about anything. How can the council always have 5-0 votes? Please, just once, speak up and say, I challenge this. I'll tell you a quick anecdote. You remember the K-rails that were on Downward Boulevard for years on the sidewalk? Remember those down by the Sycamore Canyon? Anyway, there was K-rails were sitting on the sidewalk. And any pedestrians had to walk around the K-rails into the street. 3 years those sat there. One day I found a guy driving around in a city truck with a label on the door, and I said, "Excuse me, I know you're on the job or whatever." I said, "I just have a quick question as a resident here. Those K-rails, why are they still on the sidewalk? Isn't that pose some kind of risk?" "Oh, well, I don't know. No," he says, "we're in the middle of a litigation with the guy up on the hill. I mean, his hill rolled down the sidewalk years ago over a rainstorm, and so we're still in litigation." I said, "Well, has it not dawned to anybody in City Hall that that's a risk? Somebody can step out on the street, boom, get hit? 2 days later, those K-rails are moved. They were moved into the bicycle lane. Okay? So the pedestrians can walk by. The bicyclists are now hanging out there. Well, I didn't see this one coming. 2 weeks later, a truck, a pickup truck, plows into it, and the man is killed on those K-rails. The next day, the K-rails were gone, and I guess the suit was settled. Is there no risk management in this community? I have brought this up over different issues a number of times in council meetings because I'm sitting there going, doesn't anybody else see what they're talking about as being a potential risk? How much of our dollars got put into settling that suit? I'm baffled.
Okay, so now we've talked about business and a little bit about development, but there's one last issue that's still lingering with development, and that is homelessness. The state of California estimates that 180,000 new housing units or some form of living space will be necessary to satisfy population growth. But in the last year, there's only been an average of around 80,000 units that have been built. So in just Los Angeles, there were over 55,000 people who were homeless in 2017. That's a 13,000 person increase over 2016. And now Diamond Bar is also seeing that issue with the rise in homelessness. So if elected, how do you plan to address this issue? Andrew, we'll start with you.
everyone's favorite topic, homelessness. So yes, I've seen your comments on the bus. Yes, I've personally seen. I live right off 60 of the yeah. So right by where Smiles, that's where I exit. So yes, I do see things on the side of the freeway. And if you recall, a couple weeks ago, I believe Eric was the one that pointed out there was some encampment issue there. So I took upon myself to personally call LAHSA, which is LA Homeless Housing Authority, and have them come out and take a look. So one of the things I want to keep in mind is that this is a bigger issue than Diamond Bar can handle by ourselves. We just don't have the resources to send people out to take care of this homeless issue. And also I want to encourage you to respect, they're still people. Beneath all that dirty clothes, they're still people. So let's be compassionate. They're not necessarily criminal, they're not certainly, these are people. So remember that. Anyways, look at that. So as a city, we have to leverage some resources that's already available to us. So if you follow local politics, they pass Measure H, right? So it's a huge measure that funds homelessness programs. I believe to the tune of something about a couple million a year, right? 2-3 million a year. So there's money coming down the pipe from the city and the county that's designed to help us address these issues, right? So first of all, when you see a homeless person off the freeway, one, where are they physically located? Is it on city property, is it Caltrans, or is it private property? So yes, we all get on Facebook, yes. Take a picture, yes, show all your names, I get that. But as a city council member, we have to first determine where they're located. It's not to kick the can down the road, but we need the proper resources to help address the issues. My personal feeling is that we have to leverage our county resources. Measure H was passed for a reason. Let us work with the county and use their resources, use their people. I was personally at a consortium of homelessness conference a couple weeks ago. Some of you might saw it on Facebook. I took upon myself to learn what resources and what services are available. We have a little card with all the phone numbers I can call. LAHSA is one of them, and there's plenty of other agencies, both nonprofit, government, and private agencies that are happy to go on and see them. I personally spoke with Daniel and Carissa, two fantastic young people. They recently just got married. I don't think they recently got married. They started a group called Searchlight. Their whole mission is to help homeless people. They both live in Diamond Bar. I had lunch with them. They said, if you see a homeless person, call me. We will personally go and talk to them, right? So as a city, there's only so much we can do. We have 56 full-time employees. I don't know if you know this. For a city our size, 57,000 people, we have 56 full-time employees. We don't have the personnel to send them out and address these issues. That's why we must leverage Measure H. The money's already there. The programs and the services are already there. We just need to know who to call. We need to call the supervisor's office and make sure that, and we are in their territory, although we're on probably the farthest east side of their service area, but we are within their services. And you call them, they'll send someone out within 72 hours. And it's not just one person, they'll send out a team. Social worker, mental health worker, even law enforcement. Yes, there's going to be at some point where we'll have to physically remove them. Yes, I get that. But hopefully it doesn't get to that point. If you all remember a gentleman by the name of Bo, aka the chainsaw guy? Okay. So here's a perfect example. He's a nice man, okay? He just happens to have some mental issues. His mom actually lives in Diamond Bar. And he walks around, he doesn't hurt anybody, right? But one day he got into a physical altercation with Deputy Scheller.
More than one.
More than one. So unfortunately, he was removed, subdued, and he now is a county, as far as I know.
He's in a county program now.
Thank you. Yeah, so there are situations where law enforcement officers have to be involved, but hopefully before we get to that point, we have the resources and the services that can come out and help us address the issue. And yes, it is an issue. We can't turn a blind eye on this. It's becoming more of an issue. Thank you.
I agree. I don't think there's anybody that isn't sympathetic to their cause. But there's one thing that's I've learned kind of the hard way in the sense the Pointe Lake Golf Course in Pomona is a project that I'm involved in. My boss, I'm the business manager for a big developer on the Chino Airport. We're putting $18 million self-funded hangars to try to accommodate the planes that are being displaced by Santa Monica and other places. He also had me go and basically win over the contract to run the Pointe Lake Golf Course in Pomona. And we're going to be putting $2 million into that. and it's a big investment, but it still belongs to the city of Pointe. We're a leasee. And why am I telling you this story? The homeless had moved in there, into these buildings, and nobody knew about it. The city didn't know about it. They were very creative about how they disguised their situation, but that's not the point. The city told me if they deal with the homeless, they are obligated, they have tremendous hoops they have to go through. The moment the city gets involved with the homeless, and there's a connection between the homeless and the city is up to its eyeballs and obligations. So having said that, you know, I'm sympathetic as well as, you know, the next person. And I know that there's a lot of different categories of homeless people. Those that want to get out, those that are happy to stay in, those, you know, whatever. You know, I've said this to a few people, it's a shame we couldn't get, you know, maybe the 24-hour fitness place to open up their doors once a week for a few hours in the morning and let those people who want to get out of homeless go down there and shower and shave and that kind of stuff. Get a little hygiene kind of going, you know. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's going to require, and as he was saying, it's going to be other organizations that are going to be necessary to do this. Do we help support those organizations? Well, that's your money. I would want to make that decision autonomously, but I think you see where I'm going. It's going to take an outside agency, an entity to be the mechanism to deal with it. I hate to use the word resolve it, but to deal with it. It is a problem. It's crime. It's, you know, it represents a lot of things that Diamond Bar is not known for. It doesn't want to be known for. So it's something we have to deal with. It's something not of our own making, but it's not something that the city itself can get involved in. It suddenly gets in a lot of trouble. So.
Well, another concern that a lot of residents raised in the Google form was about crime. In the past week, a gas station was robbed twice over the course of 4 days. What do you do to plan the issue of crime that's rising in Diamond Bar and to make our community safer?
Well, I'm sorry that those statistics are all wrong if you go to the city council meetings. We don't have enough police. And we don't have enough police because we don't have enough taxes. We don't have enough taxes because we don't have enough business and commerce. This is the leading edge of the problem that I'm trying to say. We can only tax homeowners to a certain degree, and if we have nothing but homes here, we're going to have even worse upset matters. So it's going to boil down to how much all of us are worth, how much all of us decide we're willing to spend for this protection. Because if we don't have taxable commerce, it's going to come out of our pockets. And right now they're saying, you know, it's a balancing act. They're balancing it in such a way, you know, they don't want to raise taxes, they don't want us to know there's a crime problem, and that 3 police are more than enough to take care of the issues. I don't know that I agree with that. But if crime is on the rise, if they're, if you watch social media, it is on the rise. The neighborhood watch thing is obviously a very good component and very good, valuable, and there's tools and things like that. I applaud the ring program that they exercise and stuff. So, you know, it takes a village. I mentioned earlier in another context that we're a fishbowl here. We really are. And we really need to watch each other's back and protect each other and be in concert with each other and watch out for each other's possessions and things like that. And together, you know, we add a whole other component that the thieves and crime, you know where I'm going with this. I'm rambling, all right. Okay.
Yes, crime is an issue in Diamond Bar. So I personally, again, walk all 18 precincts in Diamond Bar. I personally talk to people who were burglarized and they have home broken into, their cars broken into. It is an issue. I don't want to discount the work that our sheriff's office is doing. They're great people and they do the best they can. But our city contract with them will only have access to 6 police officers, and 2 of which sit in an office. Okay, 1 is a technician, and 1 is a drug specialist, DA type of person. So we have 4 police officers circling the city and patrolling it. Guess how much we're spending per year? 20% of budget, $7 million a year on police to get 4 police officers on the street. Now, I'm not discounting what they do, but as a city, we need to give them more resources. We need to work with them to help them do their jobs. So one of the things that we can do, certainly, we have almost double the number of neighborhood watches. We need to continue to work on that. Deputy Show is great. If you've never been to a coffee with a cop, I highly suggest you go. I went to a bunch of them, and the guy's a wealth of information. A nice guy too, and big biceps too, by the way. But he's a really nice guy. So talk to him. He will tell you what we're doing in every neighborhood. Right? There are certainly certain neighborhoods that are more impacted by crime. So, for example, in Palomino, right on the freeway, it's an easy access one way up the freeway, and they're gone. Right? And late night, I have bring myself, and there's a feature where you can see the videos from the neighborhood. And there's a lot of kind of late night, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, car breaks. So in Diamond Bar, we virtually have zero violent crime. The ones I hear about either domestic issues or it's a one-off type of thing. So we virtually have no violent crime in terms of people getting killed, people getting assaulted. But we have a lot of property crime. And that's an issue that will take all of us. So as a council member, I'll advocate for not just more money, but we need to be smart about $7 million. It's $7 million getting 4 police officers on the street. So we need to first review the contract, make sure we're giving them all the resources they need, and they have the data to know what neighborhoods are impacted more. So we need to be smart about the $7 million. And actually, the hotel tax that they're proposing, right? Additional $450,000 is supposed to go to police. But the language doesn't support that. The language basically says it's going to police or this, or we go to one. So for that reason, I oppose the measure. But back to the point. So $7 million is no small potato. It's 20% of our budget. Our annual budget is about $30 million. So almost a quarter of our budget goes to neighborhood safety, as it should. But we need to get more bang for our buck. So the first thing I'll do is talk to the sheriff's office and talk to, I believe it's Captain, is it Perez? Right, and I'll talk to them and see what we can do as a city to help them do their jobs. They're excellent people. I'm not discounting what they do, but we need to help them do more. Thank you.
I just want to add one real quick piece to that. You remember when the windmill used to publish the statistics?
Yeah.
I think that was a very valuable tool, and I think that's what we should, some form of that ought to be out there again.
Okay, so we're gonna open up the crime and homelessness section to audience questions. So does anybody have a question for the two candidates? Yes.
Okay, we're all worried about the homeless. I go to Laverne. I go to Brea probably 3-4 times a week. And I've been doing this for probably 15 years. I don't see homeless in Laverne. I don't see homeless in Brea. Why is that? Why can't, do they have some magic thing that we don't have, or what?
Thank you, Rick. So, if you talk to Deputy Sheldon, he'll tell you that we don't have a encampment issue per se. We don't have camps that stay, at a park off the freeway days on end. We don't have that issue. What we have, or the issue we have is transients. They come to us and walk. Now, this is according to Deputy Sheldon.
There is a woman down here. I could see her for 4 years. 4 years.
Wow.
She was up going through my trash 2 weeks ago. And she has been here for 4 years. She's the one that had the dog, the different person. Now she's got a little dog, so she puts the little people.
I believe it.
She has been here for 4 years.
Do you know where she stays?
Walsh stayed at the 60, and she was running down here, but then they ran him off in the Sunset Crossing. I didn't see her there. I haven't seen where she lived, but I have seen her since they moved down Sunset Crossing.
So,
They're very secretive
yeah,
about
so
where they are now.
This one lady, short hair.
okay, so let me go back to your question. So ask me why we have homeless issue and what does it go?
We have a homeless issue.
We do.
We're in cities like Laverne and Brea, where I think maybe it might be because of police enforcement.
So the problem is, one, we cannot.
Why we sit here.
So we certainly cannot turn a blind eye to it. I know it's an issue. It's come up more than once, more than enough times. So recently, the city of West Covina had a co-op with the local police department where they had a full day of activity, engaging the homeless population, offering solutions. I don't know if it's something that we can do as a city, but certainly it is an issue. I don't want to turn blind on it, and I know some people will say, well, we don't have a homeless issue, we do.
I have a
There.
Okay, yes, cool.
I don't need a mic. I have another thing. Is it illegal to pick up trash from the street?
Is it illegal?
Is it illegal to pick up trash from the street?
That's left behind by the homeless ones?
Homeless trash.
Oh.
So their property,
Okay, I'm glad you brought it
their
up.
beds, their furniture, is it illegal?
Okay. So
Yes or no? I mean, it's a simple yes or no answer.
No, it's not illegal.
So then why don't we?
So so I went to that symposium a couple months ago. What they said was there's an element of dignity to it, right? So they can't just show up to somebody and take all the belongings and trash it, as if they're trained not to do that. So although it is absolutely legal, and a lot of times when LASA sends people out, the last step is removal. They'll take their stuff, right? But that's the last step. Again, we need to remember these are people, right? They have attachment to their stuff, but it's not illegal. And oftentimes, as the last step, that's what they do. They'll physically take their stuff.
Thank you.
That is the question. Okay, thank you.
If you want to address that.
Yeah, you're illustrating exactly what I was trying to explain in Pomona. The city attorney told me that we, as leasee, was within our rights to move their stuff out of this domicile, this building, and put it in the street and tell them, you're out of here, this is no longer, your residence. But if the city was to do that, they couldn't. The city can't do what you just said. So the city's under different obligations.
So then how come Santa Ana was able to do it?
Well, I'm not saying it's not possible, but I mean, they have to go through.
So it is possible, we just don't have.
But what I mean is they have to go through a whole lot of hoops to get to that point. The way he explained to me that basically they would have to invite them to leave, would have to, somehow provide them, a temporary place to go, and there was just layers and layers of bureaucracy. Yeah, there was all kinds of steps to get to the point where you could physically remove them. They have more rights than, well, and I'm not saying they don't deserve rights. Please, don't read anything between. I'm just giving you the cold hard facts that was explained to me in Pomona, which is dealing with a huge homeless problem. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if some of the folks you see here, came from there. They're resourceful. I'll give them that. They had a bicycle. They were stealing bicycles, bringing it into our building, and basically building other bicycles out of them. They had a whole operation going inside this building, and a whole enterprise going. And it was all clandestine. Nobody knew it was there. You wouldn't even know the doors had hinges, or that that they could come and go at will. But they go where the resources are. The more there's some reason why they find this place, not just convenient, but I mean, to survive. Yeah.
They want to die for address.
Do we have any more questions on homeless?
There was another hand.
I just want to say that Orange County and LA County deal with the homeless in different ways. Orange County does have, Orange County has a system, and I work with the police, because I have to deal with a lot of homelessness. You have to give an advisement, you have to get a signature. Once I sign my property again, I sign the paper, you will be immediately arrested. Orange County is working with the cities to help with the homelessness. And we're not.
Yeah, these people took probably $200,000 worth of copper out of our infrastructure to this golf course. That's how they were surviving there. That was their. But the cops, when they came, they said, "There's nothing we can do about the vagrancy and the fact that they're trespassing, but we can write up we can file a report that there's been vandalism or stole all the wire, and tried to, you know what I'm saying? We're out that money, I mean, but anyway.
So, are there any other questions on this topic? Yes, back there, and then I'll come back to you. And Andrew, you can answer these questions.
More of a suggestion. I think that the city of Diamond Bar, I'm from Phillips Ranch, and I deal a lot with the Pomona area, and I've been involved in the homeless issue and some of the other issues there. And Diamond Bar does not seem like it is ready to deal with the homeless issue like some of these surrounding cities may. Is it possible that maybe Diamond Bar could get into a consortium with Pomona, who is aggressively dealing with the issue, and maybe Phillips Ranch or Chino Hills to kind of combine their efforts? So then maybe that will help you out financially and do the whole thing there.
So yes, I was at that meeting, I was at the consortium meeting. Being part of the consortium, let me clarify, doesn't mean that the city of Diamond Bar is agreeing to take on homeless population. It does not mean that. It means we're able to leverage whatever resources and services that's already available so that we can deal with the homeless issue. So yes, at that day I was shocked. I was the only one there from our city out of all the candidates. The only other person there was Anthony, the assistant city manager. So that tells everything you need to know. The city does not want to address it. They don't think it's an issue, but I'm telling you, it is an issue. If we don't address it, it's going to become even more of a serious issue.
Well, it's going to be more serious because the outlying areas, Pomona, for example, is dealing with 400, and they have made arrangements to house those 400. If they get an additional 150 or 200 from outlying communities, they are going to threaten to sue the outlying cities for help. So that's why I'm suggesting possibly a consortium between cities that can get something done, get them all together. One organization can go to all 3 locations and help. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, the operative word you used there was organization. It's going to take a nonprofit of some kind that's either going to step in or be formed and you know, that would be the scenario. Because I want to be clear, the cities are going to have to distance themselves from having direct responsibility for taking care of these people, or they'll end up being obligated. So it's going to take a separate entity of some kind. Any other questions about the back top?
So I used to live in West Hollywood, and my understanding is the state Supreme Court passed something to where the city is no longer allowed to move homeless unless, like you guys said, you provide alternatives. I just wonder if you guys can answer that and confirm that I'm understanding that correctly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's been my experience in Pomona. New subject?
Yes, so we're gonna now move on to a quicker subject on seniors and children. So a lot of residents put in questions regarding the quality.
He's got give a question.
Okay, here, you can ask the question and then we'll move on to the next one.
So this is basically something completely different from the homeless issue, but this is kind of a problem that we kind of prevalent in the cities, especially in the neighbor cities, and especially the fact that California does host a lot of sanctuary cities. One of the problems that I found on the Diamond Bar Buzz was around last week. There was a post about how one of the houses right next to Diamond Highschool, how people were suspicious of a letter that was sent out by a foreign woman about how they were being like, returning like mothers and like they were affecting wives, like they were just like the birthing issue. So I was wondering if the candidates have any like sort of like stand on like how we want to take care of this issue. Like it's something like the homelessness issue, but this is something that's like down like on the ground. So I was wondering if the city council has any views on it, or if you guys have any views on it.
If we can answer this question.
We had a marijuana house in our neighborhood, actually a couple of them. People are getting very creative about making money about, inside these houses. Birthing houses is obviously another one of those models. And I mean, if you're asking me if I'm against it or what's your question? I mean, everybody's against it. But
It's just like how we guys will want
we will deal with it.
future.
Deport them?
Birthing about
okay? Stay on topic. I was trying to add a little levity here that people get just saying that houses are for houses for families to live in, and people are coming into our area and turning them into, you know, enterprises, whether it's producing babies or producing marijuana. I mean, that can't take place. You know, so that kind of goes back to the neighborhood watch kind of stuff. You know, we all have to stay on top and know what to do when we see this kind of stuff. But
well, the city doesn't do too much, because I had a neighbor, a burning house right next to me, and we got the city involved, and they really couldn't do much. But thank goodness I lived in an association, and the association was able to do more than the city, because it's,
wow.
Yeah.
I'm stunned to hear that. The city can't take action against burning houses?
They didn't have much to help us.
I wonder if that's outsourced. Maybe that's why we can't do it.
Yeah.
Some of the things that come out of City Hall, I'm stunned at. I really don't understand. I mean, you have a comment?
That's a great question, Jackson. So to me, it's more of a code enforcement issue.
Yeah, that's what they said.
Now, moral things aside, it's absolute code enforcement. One, they're running a business. Secondly, the city's not collecting sales tax, it's mostly cash transaction. And thirdly, might be a lot of health violations, right? If the city's not inspecting, then how do we know they're up to code? And certainly, you can't run a business like that out of your home for a lot of reasons, health, sanitary reasons. So to me, that's more of a code enforcement issue. Now, part of the problem is we have 56 people working for the city. One code enforcement officer, Officer Jones, Justin Jones, who took some of my yard sign, by the way, but, so we're best friends now. But we have one code enforcement officer for a city of 57,000 people and 30,000 homes. So that's the issue.
Department of Public Health as well.
Correct, so it's, okay, so all that argument aside, it's a code enforcement issue for me, thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on to
This ties everything. This ties it very nicely back to the point that these people aren't here to hear this stuff because there's never an open forum like this to get this stuff out of the way.
We're gonna move on to the topic of senior concerns and the concerns of the youth because we are getting crunched for time. So a sizable amount of questions that came in were regarding facilities for families to, for recreational facilities like that. One specific thing that came up a lot was the overcrowding of sporting facilities at Pantera Park and other park space for families in Diamond Bar. And also a lot of concerns about senior living standards and that the city has failed to address. So if you could address those two issues in the next 5 minutes.
I've been waiting for that question all night because I'm Parks and Recreation Commissioner. Thank you. Finally something to talk about. So let me go back a little bit. So as the Parks and Recreation Commissioner, as a father, I know how important these programs are. But for some reason, the city has chosen to neglect the needs of seniors. Let me start there. Yeah. Years ago, we had that grand beautification project. We received $1 million grant, free money, from a former congressman. $1 million free money, specifically for grant. Great, let's spend every penny, $1 million. Guess what? They went over budget. Surprise, 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 right? They went, first time they won by $300,000. Guess where they took the money? Senior downright program. Then they still went over another $200,000. Guess where they took the money? The general fund. Our money. So we had $1 million budget. When there were $300,000, we'll first take money from seniors. Then we'll take $200,000 from the general fund from our money. Right? So we can't have that. So first of all, we need to put the focus back on seniors, right? So pickleball court. Who plays pickleball? Yeah. So that's something that came up. Right? We have to address the needs of seniors. And Daud, it's the first program we need to put money back in. People depend on this. So although we're a community, so the average age in Diamond Bar, want to take a guess? 41. About 41, right? Me, right? And the average family size is about 3, so you get mom, dad, and 1 kid, right? Usually. So that's the typical family of Diamond Bar. I think that is the reason why when we collected needs about seniors. But when I go to every precinct in Diamond Bar, these are people that live here since the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. They're the backbone of this community, right? And we're turning our back on them by taking the programs away, and we need to change that. So that's first. Secondly, for our kids, I have an 11-year-old who loves tennis and soccer, right? And I have a 1.5-year-old, a little too small for dancing and mommy classes, but hopefully get her there one day. So yes, I'll continue to push for robust programs for not just for kids, but for seniors. I mean, when I talk to them, these are people that have been here the longest. They know what's happened. They have the history of Denmark behind them. We can't turn our backs on these people. We can't turn our backs on them. They've been here the longest, right? So there's a balance between what we can do between seniors and between the kids. There is a balance. So I will propose that I'll push for robust programs for the family, where everyone comes. So things you enjoy: Snowfest, Halloween costume parties, right? And what else? We have the summer camp, Heritage Park, which my son took place in. So there are a lot of programs that we have. These are great programs. We need to push for more. Right? And as a Park and Recreation Commissioner, that's kind of my passion. That's why I got myself on the commission. So I will definitely push for that. As far as sports fields, so we are currently building, in the process of designing a new park at the end of Sunset Crossing. Which is, so it's a 5-acre park. The city spent $5 million acquiring the land, and we're in the design phase. So I welcome input. That's where the town halls come in. Tell us what you want. Right? The design phase starts in 2 years, and the actual build-up might start a year or two after that. So if I were to get elected, we'll have town halls. You tell me what you want. Some people tell me they want a water fountain. They'll kind of splash on the floor. A lot of people want pickleball for it. But we need more sports fields. The problem at Ventura Park, they mix the softball field with soccer field. And for some reason, they practice at the same time. Although soccer and baseball have different seasons, so I don't know how that happened. So we need to, from a scheduling perspective, we can show you do better. And at the new park, we need to push for the lighting fields. So we can do more stuff like that. So right now, the city actually contract with the school districts, and we use Gorbier as a soccer field for our ISO programs, which is great. We can look into that more. There are plenty of schools in Denmark. So because of years and decades of development, we don't have any open space left. Right? The city is only 15 square miles. 50% of it is already built out with homes. 20% is parks, 20% open space, most of which is hills that we can use. So we're completely built out. There's no more space for parks. It's hard to find. Right? So what we need to do is be smart about the parks we have and make better use of it. Thank you.
Absolutely. But I want to go back to reference I made earlier that may or may not be readily understandable that we're in the fishbowl. We've only got so much money to work around, to deal with. And so, we have to be realistic and we have to think in terms of compromise, the big C word I used earlier. That, in my opinion, it's these kind of forums where we find out what people really feel and really want to do with the limited resources we have. And so I'm not going to stand here and kind of, say we can buy everything we want, because we can't. But we need to prioritize those things in a much better way than we have in the past. And I think seniors have gotten the wrong of the deal. There's no question about that. But it's going to take dialogue. It's going to take these kinds of communications with everybody, make sure everybody's voice is heard. And in the end, it's basically the loudest voice that's going to carry the day. But we have to remember we only have so much to go around. And we really kind of have to use that metaphor, keep that metaphor in mind, that we're in a fishbowl. And we all get along, we're all in this fishbowl and live and die together, and we only have so much to give around, to hand around. So anyway, that's my metaphor for the day.
We're going to end today on the issue of transparency, and so Yuwen will take over that part.
Given the context that announcements of public workshops or surveys for significant development projects often don't reach a majority of Diamond Bar residents, how do you plan on increasing the scope of residents with whom the city communicates? You have 3 minutes. Thank you. We'll start with Bob.
So I might start. Well, communication is everything, and things go viral. Crazy things go viral, and the things that mean a lot to us don't. But then again, there's so much. I'm convinced that there's a lot of apathy amongst all of us because there's so little communication. I hope I'm making sense here. You go to the council meetings and why? Why did I go here? I just watched a bunch of robots. And so I'm saying that they may or may not be using, well, I don't think they've used the right tools at all to get word out. But at the same time, you know, we need to all kind of like share and speak up and communicate. So I think there's better tools that can be used. I think it fits in with the tools they're using kind of fit into this overall theme of secrecy and not wanting people to know what's going on. And that's going to change when he and I get there. I can guarantee you that. I know I can speak for him on that. So that's my speech.
So I think the issue here is a couple folds. So one, why are we not engaged with the city government? Right? I think that's issue number one. The apathy can come from a lack of, you feel that your voices aren't heard, or you feel like your voices don't matter. So for example, if you are a city council member, elected city council member, you sit up there, and 300 residents in Yellow Shirt show up to tell you we're against this development. And you sit there and vote yes. What message are you sending to the 300 people when they go home? They're saying, we showed up, we participated, we say no. And how come our voices don't matter, right? How come they're not hearing us? How come they went ahead with that development? So it's things like that create apathy amongst voters and among residents. So we need to change that first. So we need to make sure that your voice is heard. Right? Secondly, transparency, it's not that difficult. It's an intentional decision not to be transparent. It's absolutely intentional. There's websites, there's Facebook, there's email, there's flyers. You can add me on Facebook, I'll tell you everything, right? So not being transparent is completely intentional. So as a council member, I promise to be transparent. I think that's the biggest reason why a lot of you don't vote. That's why our voter turnout is so low. I'm not talking about national or primaries, I'm talking about local elections. Before we moved into the even year cycle, last time 3,000 people voted out of 30,000 registered voters. Because you feel that your voice is not heard, right? So we need to change that. Let me tell you, your voices do matter. You are heard. I read all your comments on Facebook. Trust me, I read all of them. Okay? 4 different groups, I read all of them. Because I absolutely care about what you have to say. So transparency starts there. It starts with council members who have the same vested interest as you. I not only live in Diamond Bar, I have my office in Diamond Bar, my kid goes to school in Diamond Bar, heck, I go to Kaiser in Diamond Bar, right? I sit in the same traffic as you. So I'm as local as they come, right? So yes, so it matters, and transparency is important. The thing we can do through website, through email, there's a lot of things we can do. Thank you.
Just to follow up on the issue of voter apathy.
About your social media and everything, my wife and I passed out 70 flyers that we printed up and put them in neighbors' front yards on their doormat. 70 of them. We don't even have 70 people here. And that was hand delivered Saturday afternoon.
Sir, can I please speak to that? My name is Robin Smith, and I'm the infamous admin for the Diamond Bar Spotlight. The Diamond Bar Spotlight. I just want to speak to this gentleman's remark because there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and I hope what I say here encourages everyone, because frankly, I can't believe we got this far. Okay, so thanks to you, I am so grateful, because I am not a computer person, I'm a harpist and a gardener, so God help us all. But one thing that I have done for 3 years, I have read over 5,000 pages of city documents, and that's how I learned the information that I want to remind you all of this evening. The important thing about the voter apathy, and years ago, I used to be so fed up, I didn't vote because I was tired, all right? Our community is sick right now. That's where we are. Now, we we are waking up, we're here now. But we have to be patient and considerate because we have such a wonderful richness in our diversity, but we have so many different people that are just tired and without hope and beaten down and angry and all of the above. So we need to know that is real, and that's why the spotlight is there. As some sort of touchstone where we can communicate facts. It's not a smear page going after people. It's going to be reporting all the results of read city documents, so you can look them up yourself. And we're going to try to guide where you can get those documents yourself.
So the question was, how would you increase voter? We didn't hear a question.
So, just following up with the issue of voter apathy, and as Robin had mentioned, city documents being nearly impossible to decipher, are there any specific actions you would take if elected to combat this issue? Either
complexity of the issue being the complexity of the posting,
and that contributing to voter apathy and people being tired.
I think I know what.
But if I can clarify, the issue is that a lot of times people look up documents on the city website, and they're huge, hundreds of pages of documents. If those could be simplified for the voters to understand the issues and what the city council is voting on, that's what the question is leading to, simplifying for the masses to understand.
I suspect that, going back to what I was saying about all the staff, people running the city, in City Hall, there's some kind of agenda going on. I don't know what it is. And the council members just rubber stamp what they do. And you have, in addition to that, this influence from the city of industry. There's just strange things afoot. And the fact that things are hard to understand and hard to read, hard to find, and hard to get your hands on, just plays into that. I don't want to call it conspiracy theory, but in lack of a better term, you know, there's no transparency. Mushroom theory, is that what I heard?
Yes.
Anyway, this has all got to change. And it all plays in on top of each other. It's all interwoven. The lack of, the apathy and the fact nobody goes to the council members, they don't feel any pressure, they get away with what they're doing. They've got 20 years of success doing this stuff. So I'm hoping this is a paradigm shift. This is the whole reason I told you why I got started to begin with. I saw the train coming off the rails. We're in an unsustainable situation. We keep selling off land, we're going to run out of land, and it's going to go right over the edge. And I don't want to, I want to get involved. My whole life I've gotten involved with things and I just walked away. And so I'm here simply because I want to do a service to this community, and I see it clearly, and I wanted to take action, and I'm stepping up, and I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to go down in flames. But that's me. But I need your support, and Andrew needs your support. And that's why we're doing this. That's the only reason. I can't wait to get back flying. I'm sorry. I've got other things I'd like to be doing.
Just following up on that, so if you are elected to city council, would you be open to having public forums with a direct question and answer format like these?
Yes, but okay. I mentioned I'm a recovering engineer. Maybe that's why I see a lot of things clearly. If I understand something and I realize that this is in such a format that people don't understand it, I'm going to explain it to you. That's just the way I am. No promises. I'm saying if I can figure out what's going on, I'm going to share that, and we're going to get to the root of this thing. We've got to get our city back.
And same question for you, Andrew. Would you be willing to having public forums like this?
Yes, absolutely. That's why we're here. I can't believe we don't have more of this. We've been in the city for 3 years now, and this is the first one I can think of. So I really want to thank the students. I want to thank Taruni for putting this on. like I keep saying, democracy does not happen in a vacuum. It requires participation, requires civic engagement, and that's why we're here. And you know, it can be as small as designing a new park. It can be as large as the strategic plan, right? But we need resident input. Otherwise, why are we elected? What, we're just going to show up one day and impose our will on the people? No. We're here because you elected us to do a job for you. That's the way I fundamentally view my position if I were to get elected. Thank you.
And for closing, just the question, why should you be elected to the city council?
$1 million question, why should I get elected? So, I decided to run, like many of you, I have deep concerns for our city. I have 2 kids, as I mentioned. I want to make sure we leave the city in a better place for them than the way I found it. If I were to get elected, you can be assured that I'm not going to be a rubber stamp. I am the checks and balances you need on the city council. It will not be 5-0 every single time. I will have a voice, I will reflect your opinions, and that's my job to be on the council, to make sure that it's not a rubber stamp every single time. And that's why I think I would love to have your support. And also if I can search on that again. So the definition of crazy, insanity, is doing the same thing over and over and over and over, expecting a result. Same thing can apply to this election. You keep electing the same block of candidates over and over and over and over, what's going to happen? Overdevelopment, traffic, and crowd for our city. So we need to fundamentally change the way we look at our revenue sources. We need to move away from building homes to building an economy. We need someone who can read the budget, who's not a rubber stamp, and I will be that checks and balances on the city council for all of you. Thank you.
He's so much more charismatic than me. I'm not going to give sympathy, no. But, you know, I left it all on the floor. I mean, I left it all in the field tonight. You know exactly who I am, where I'm coming from. 2,000 people, 3 years ago, 2,000 people decided the city's future. That was all it took to win. 2,000 people, you could own this town 3 years ago. It's anybody's guess now that we're on a whole cycle, you know, but I've been saying 3,000 people and you can own this town. I'm probably going to, I'd be surprised if that's not the fact. But anyway, my point is this. We need everybody here to go tell 10 of their friends and make sure they do the right thing. At least 10. So you guys can do the math. And you at home, do the math. That's all I have to say.
Well, we want to thank everyone for coming out today. If you have any more lingering questions, you can come afterward and talk to the candidates. And thank you very much. I hope you're more informed about the candidates you're voting for now, and you can make a good decision come November 6th.
Congratulations to the moderators who did that good job.
Oh, okay, this is a good point that Rob brought up. There will be a general plan meeting on November 29th. So if you are now inspired to go out and get more involved with the city, that's going to be on that day.
Find out what we're doing.